We're going to start with the news that the former chief executive of the Post Office, Paula Vennells, has agreed, after much pressure, to return her CBE following a petition signed by more than 1.2 million people. The voice of the public here has been enormous, hasn't it?
Rightly so. Now, we're joined now by former software engineer David Smith, who created the petition, and we're talking to him alongside Nicky Arch, who was wrongly accused of stealing £24,000. Good morning to you both. Now, David, you are a software engineer, so there's nobody that knows computer systems more than you. You know that no computer system does not suffer from bugs. So this Horizon software system, you knew it would suffer bugs, which is why you put the petition together. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's how I first heard about it, and I would like to thank the 1.2 million people, and still rising, that have signed the petition, and in particular the sub-postmasters who've got behind it and also contacted me. It's heartbreaking to hear the stories, but I'm glad that they are getting this platform now. And I did first read about it through Technology News, and when I heard or saw the statement to the effect of Horizon doesn't have any bugs, I know from being involved in the development of enterprise software like that, that's just not possible. Software, it always has bugs. It's how you respond to them. You accept that will happen. That's why there are testing phases. That's why there are updates. People will know in day-to-day life, whether they buy games or software or operating systems, smartphones, we are having to update them all the time for fixes and patches.
1.2 million signatures now, and you're responsible for the CBE given back. How proud must you feel?
I mean, it feels fantastic. I mean, reading the news yesterday, I was obviously delighted at the success of the petition. And one of the things which has really struck me right from the beginning, from when the first sub-postmaster reached out to speak to me, and I have enjoyed speaking to them and hearing their stories because they do need to be told. Hear the comments of people yesterday crediting the petition with the result of Paula Vennells handing back a CBE was fantastic. I know Joe Hamilton made a statement, who was wrongly convicted in 2008, crediting the million-plus people who signed the petition with finally doing the right thing here. Because obviously the petition has been going a few years and it's taken till now to see some action.
Brilliant.
Now, I just think it's important now that that process is followed through to the conclusion, because I know from reading the history, obviously this has been going on for 2 decades now, and I feel it's really important that the sub-postmasters' voices are heard and that they are the ones who are helping to shape the justice that they see fit. Because the more people speak to me, the more I've heard about it. I'm not sure, you know, how you put a value on it, but they need to work with them to not only ensure these convictions are quashed as soon as possible, but that they get the compensation they deserve. Because so far, the amount of costs that they've had, for me, that isn't compensation. That is making good damages that have been done to them. For me, the compensation needs to be on top of this for the horrendous ordeal that they've had to go through.
And it has been horrendous, and we're going to be joined by one of those postmasters now. But thank you, David. Thanks, David, for that petition.
Well done, David. I mean, it's hard to celebrate it, isn't it, when so many lives have been absolutely ruined by this. And one of them is Nicky Arch, who joins us live from her home now. Nicky, what price on the personal loss for so many people, the emotional damage that's been done over the years? It's difficult to really put a number on that, isn't it?
It is. There is no number. But I'm so determined to try and start a new life. I've had this since 2000, so I'm going in my 24th year now, and my 18-year-old doesn't know any different. And I want that difference to happen, because he's off to the RAF and I want him to go there and for once think, Mum's fine and she's no longer the post office woman. That's my intention, and I'll keep fighting until we get there.
I guess Paula Vennells giving back the CBE is a step in the process of maybe heading towards proper compensation for you. So, your views on that, and what do you want to happen next for you personally?
My view is she's just been forced to give it back, basically. David, it's just incredible. All the people who has had nothing to do with this whatsoever, but stepping up like yourselves and putting us in the limelight is just fantastic. And that's what gets me most emotional, actually, is the help we're getting from you guys. But she's just been forced to do it. She had no choice. The right thing for her to do would have been to give it back years ago. My opinion is, who on earth saw it fit to give it to her in the first place for services to the post office? Because we all know, they all knew, the government, the post office, they all knew what was going on for many years, but somebody said, well, let's honour Paula Vennells. And I'd like to know who that person was and their thought process, because it's just bizarre. She should never have been given it in the first place.
Nikki, I guess there will be a further inquiry and we'll find out all those things, and I think they're really, really relevant questions.
Yeah.
Look, I hope everything goes your way from now on with your son and everything works out for you and you keep up the fight. David, thank you so much as well.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sayeeda. We're putting you straight into the bear pit here, I guess, because you were involved in government during that period. And I'm just wondering, what could the government have done differently during that time? Because the accusations are wild and varied, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And it's actually quite astonishing for me, who I was actually in government during that time, and when you're kind of overwhelmed on a day-to-day basis with your bit of the portfolio, which is what you're dealing with, and I was predominantly in the Foreign Office, it's astonishing now that an ITV drama has focused so many people's minds as to how huge a scandal this was. And I think what needs to happen now is exactly what we're now starting to see, which is some compensation for the people who've suffered, an overturning of the convictions of those that have suffered, some accountability at the post office, an inquiry into what exactly went wrong, who presented which evidence, how accurate the data was that was coming out of Fujitsu, and what government knew at that time. I think that is a really important aspect in all of this. Just how much did various ministers know, and what could they have done?
We presume you all
times?
knew. So you're saying not everybody knew? You didn't know?
If you know anything about the way that government works, I mean, you're doing 80 hours a day as a minister in your little bit of the bit that you're working on, and the rest of it is left to other people who are dealing with their particular portfolios. And so I think, people think that government has a handle on all aspects of everything that is happening at any one time. I think what's quite disturbing about this particular scandal is that over and over and over again, various ministers and parliamentarians were made aware of this, and that over and over again, the ball was dropped. And I think that's why a public inquiry is important, for us to look at what went wrong. And I was just saying to Nick, we were speaking earlier, that it's astonishing how an ITV drama has focused politicians' minds in a way that constituency letters clearly did not.
Yeah.
Also terrifying, isn't it? I mean, what if the drama didn't happen?
Well, it's a huge wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for politicians. It's a wake-up call for the media. Let's be honest here. Because save for Private Eye magazine and Computer Weekly or Computer Monthly and some local radio, really this would never have come to light, which is shameful for the media and it's shameful for politicians. But without sounding like a politician, with the greatest respect, we need to go forward now. So what do we need to do? We need to find out how Fujitsu managed to do this. And I'm sorry, this is a company this morning that was worth £58 billion. I think once the inquiry reports, there's a very valid case that the compensation bill, which is going to run into the tens of possibly hundreds of millions of... They should be footing some of that bill without question. And I would also ask, and this isn't on Size Watch, so don't worry, but other government departments that are currently have Fujitsu contracts, I think they should study those very carefully, because notwithstanding the post office boss, who quite rightly has given back her CBE, a lot of the blame tracks back. She didn't actually make the damn Horizon product, Fujitsu did.
Fujitsu were awarded a contract to provide IT to Northern Ireland schools in the last 12 months, worth almost £500 million.
It's extraordinary.
It continues even with a cloud over them. It's astonishing, isn't it?
It is astonishing. And I think for me, the big question that we need to ask in all of this is, what did Fujitsu know, and what did they tell the post office, and how accurate was the information that was being presented as part of the post office prosecutions? Because if information that was presented in court turns out subsequently to be a lie, then there are serious consequences, including potential prosecutions for perjury and perverting the course of justice, which carries a custodial sentence. I mean, I think there's a big move, quite rightly, to say, let's overturn these convictions. And the process that we've got at the moment through the Criminal Cases Review Commission means that they look at individual cases, they look at the evidence, they look at whether Horizon was a material part of the evidence to convict, they look at whether there is a possibility of that conviction being overturned. recommend, and then they refer. And what's also interesting is that the Commission have referred some of these cases back to the Court of Appeal, and some of these appeals have not succeeded. So because this kind of case-by-case basis is simply not working fast enough, I think the Commission are doing all they can, but they have a process to follow and they have certain rules and procedures that they have to follow. But I think because the Commission cannot carry on doing this on a case-by-case basis, I think this afternoon there's some suggestion that Kevin Hollenrake, the Post Office's Minister, will announce how we can deal with this en masse.
Thank you, Sayeeda. It's really, really helpful to get an insider. It's really, really helpful.